Donald Trump says he will not use force to acquire Greenland and called for immediate negotiations for the US to take control of the semi-autonomous Danish territory. The American president told leaders at the World Economic Forum that his demand was a small ask for a piece of ice. He also insisted that the US acquiring the island would pose no threat to NATO, of which Denmark and the US are both members. President Trump went on to describe Denmark as ungrateful and said that the United States was the only country that could keep Greenland safe.
It's the United States alone that can protect this giant mass of land, this giant piece of ice, develop it and improve it and make it so that it's good for Europe and safe for Europe and good for us. And that's the reason I'm seeking immediate negotiations to once again discuss the acquisition of Greenland by the United States, just as we have acquired many other territories throughout our history, as many of the European nations have. They've acquired. There's nothing wrong with it. We never asked for anything, and we never got anything. We probably won't get anything unless I decide to use excessive strength and force, where we would be, frankly, unstoppable. But I won't do that. Okay? Now everyone's saying, oh, good. That's probably the biggest statement I made, because people thought I would use force. I don't have to use force. I don't want to use force. I won't use force.
Unless he does. Straight to our correspondent, Teri Schultz in Brussels. Welcome, Teri. The president's NATO allies will be pleased to hear he's not planning to use force to get Greenland.
Well, they'll be somewhat reassured, Phil, because, of course, he specifically refused to rule out the use of the U.S. military to do this before when asked time and time again, as we know. So that's not nothing. But as you heard, there are plenty of other ominous things in the way he continues to talk about Greenland and about Denmark when saying that, that's our territory and that, he believes he'll still get Greenland without using force. Hearing him say that he thinks Denmark should just hand over the island as if Greenland has no, mind of its own, as if the people living there don't have the right to self-determination, is still going to be a bit of a problem for Europeans, and especially the part about where he said, we'll remember this. So I would expect that this is going to come up in basically every negotiation about everything inside NATO, for example, from now on. And for the Danes, this is something they're still going to be worried about. They've just bought a bunch of F-35s, when they need spare parts or instructions, is the U.S. going to say, yeah, Mel, maybe when you give us Greenland? So I think that this is going to continue coming up time and again. He's going to bring up Greenland as a bargaining chip from now on.
OK. And to be clear, the US already does have an agreement that allows it to station as many troops in Greenland as it wants.
That's correct. Since 1951, and most of us who cover this issue on a daily basis have probably returned to read that agreement, as I have. And at the time, the U.S. had 3 bases on Greenland, and this agreement gave them the right to scale up those bases, to move in between them, to have as many people as they want on Greenland. Now, the U.S. itself decided after that to reduce that presence to 1 single base. It can't blame anyone for that but itself. And even now, it would have the right to scale up that base. And Denmark and Greenland have both said, welcome, send whoever you want. We're happy to have added U.S. security on Greenland. You just can't say you own it. So this doesn't make much sense. It's just that Donald Trump says he won't really feel the need to defend the island, which he at the moment does have the obligation to do under NATO's Article 5, unless he has the title to it. So this is really the complicating factor, that he says he needs to own it if he's going to defend it.
We've heard some strong reactions from European leaders to these latest Trump statements. They're saying they've had enough. Are we now starting to see the signs of a new approach towards the United States from Europe?
It was really Trump's imposition of tariffs, or his decision that he would impose tariffs as of February 1st, I should say, to be more clear, that really changed the tone here in Brussels and in European capitals, because Trump had been using the excuse that he felt that Arctic security had gaps in it, and that's why he needed to seize Greenland. And so Europeans, 7 other European countries, plus the UK, sent troops there to look at what might be done to scale up Arctic security. Was he right that there were things that should be done immediately, even though most countries say that the presence of Russian and Chinese ships around Greenland is really not as big as Trump has claimed? So they sent this reconnaissance mission, not troops, nothing, to see what should be done. And then Trump punished them for doing that, saying that he didn't know why they were there. So this was really where people said, okay, that's enough. You asked us to increase security. We started doing that. And then you intend to take these measures against us. So that is why they basically called this European Council, this EU summit for tomorrow night to discuss what measures they might have in retaliation for the U.S. imposition of new tariffs. Now, nobody knows exactly whether Trump is going to continue with that intention because he didn't make that clear in his speech today, but they're going to be ready for it.
Thanks for that, Teri. DW correspondent Teri Schultz. Let's get more on this from journalist Jakob Illeborg in the Danish capital. Welcome back, Jakob. Talk us through initial reactions to Donald Trump's speech.
Well, the Foreign Minister, Lars Løkke Rasmussen, just finished a press briefing, and he basically said, as we heard before as well, then in many ways, things haven't changed that much. Yes, it's nice to know that Donald Trump does not intend to use force to get Greenland, but he still covets Greenland. He still wants Greenland. So from a Danish point of view, I think it's still all hands on deck, lots of insecurity, lots of basically just following the news as they happen from hour to hour. This is kind of where we are right now.
Okay, so talk me through what happens next, because Donald Trump says, I want it. The Danes and the Greenlanders say, you can't have it. He says, all right, let's talk. What is there to talk about? Will there still be negotiations, or will they say, well, there's nothing to negotiate because you can't have it?
Well, I suppose it kind of depends what you're negotiating about. The Danish foreign minister again said, we will not negotiate about you buying Greenland or us giving you Greenland. But we are, of course, happy to negotiate about everything else, about shared security, about American troops in Greenland or investments, whatever it might be, whatever can make Donald Trump feel happy about the security situation. But the message from Copenhagen right now is, no, we will not negotiate about you buying Greenland.
How is Denmark reacting to the threat, then, of more tariffs in February if Donald Trump doesn't get what he wants?
Well, basically... Sorry, there's a little bit of a bad line. Could you repeat that question?
No worries.
Sorry about that.
How's Denmark reacting to the threat of more tariffs in February if Donald Trump doesn't get what he wants?
Badly, very badly. I mean, obviously, we already have the threat. We already have tariffs and the consequences of that. And should there come more tariffs on Denmark, it will hurt not least the small and medium-sized Danish businesses. But the feeling right now is that maybe we can deal with it. We will have to deal with it. We will shoulder the burden with the rest of Europe. But certainly, it's not a pleasant situation for Denmark. It's one you try to avoid, especially because there are threats that we'll have even more tariffs later in the year. So as with everything else right now, it's up in the air. We are following things as they happen on the big stage. And it's very strange for Denmark and for Greenland to be sort of the heart of geopolitical matters right now. We're not used to this.
Greenland, I understand, has released crisis guidelines. Tell us about those.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically to be able to, for Greenlandic families to cope with being without whatever, necessities you would have for 3 to 5 days. And it would be sort of the usual stuff like batteries and radio and water and stuff like that, but also some of the more odd stuff, for us at least, like fishing rods and hunting gear and ammunition, which clearly also shows you what part of the world we're dealing with. This is a very different world to the world we know, and a world where you can go and get your necessities outdoors if needed be. The Greenlanders are tough people, many of them. I think they're stressed out, of course, about all this, but they're also ready to stand up for themselves. And if needed be, as we hear from those preparations, they're ready to sit it out if things should get really bad.
And tell us about the beefed up security situation and Greenland, because we've heard about this small contingent of troops that were sent over from not only Denmark, but a number of other European countries. Apparently they were just there to sort of suss the situation out, but there is a promise of more.
Yes, I think basically what the Danes have done is that they have sent up several planes and ships with more personnel. Some of them are just your if you will, average soldiers, but some of them are specialized, trained soldiers, combat-ready soldiers, if you will. I think that the hope in Denmark is that this sort of shared NATO exercise that seems to be able to go on for the whole year, curiously, will mean that you will have more other European military personnel coming up. But right now, even if there is a promise from America that we will not take Greenland militarily, I think that the Danes are putting quite a few soldiers up there, maybe just to be sure, maybe to show Donald Trump that, we do take his security issues seriously.
Good talking to you again, Jakob. Thanks for joining us. Journalist Jakob Illeborg in Copenhagen.